Hi, today we'll be teaching you how to put a PC together. I am Resone Russel.
Hi, my name is Carshel Davis.
And I am Daniel Peñaloza. The hard drive is the external storage device for a computer. It is a form of non-volatile memory, which means that even when the power is off, it still contains all of the data stored in it. It consists of magnetic disks with a huge storage capacity, which is where all the memory is stored. The Molex cable. The Molex cable is a 4-pin connector used to bring DC power to drives inside the computer. It is easily identified by the 4 colors in the cable and the 4 pins which it connects to.
The CPU, also known as the processor, is the brain of the computer where most calculations take place. The CPU directly affects the overall computer performance. Some important considerations when selecting a CPU include the number of cores, the clock speeds of the cores, and the amount of memory. This here is a heatsink. A heatsink is an electronic device that incorporates either a fan or a Peltier device to keep the CPU cool. There are 2 types of heatsink, an active and a passive. An active heatsink utilizes the power and are usually a fan type.
Fans are used to cool down high-frequency components inside the computer. It also ensures that hot air is blown out of a PC cabinet.
RAM is located on the north bridge of the motherboard. RAM is a volatile memory, which means that the information stored is lost when there is no power. The RAM is married to the CPU when the computer is running and store information that it needs to be used very quickly, but it's not permanently.
BIOS, which stands for Basic Input-Output System, is a type of read-only memory found within the motherboard of a computer. This allows you to access, set up, and control the hardware inside the computer at the most basic level. The BIOS chip stores all its data in what is known as the CMOS chipset. This chipset is what stores all the settings and is a small form of memory within the motherboard of a computer. The CMOS chipset is a form of non-volatile memory, which means that it can hold its memory even when there is no power to it.
PCI slots, also known as peripheral component interconnect, are adapter card slots which can hold graphic, Wi-Fi, and sound cards. The power supply. The power supply allows the computer to operate. It converts AC to DC, and the power is also measured in watts. Optical drive is the display of a CD-ROM drive. It reads CDs, DVDs, Blu-ray discs with the laser.
The Serial Advanced Technology Attachment Cable, also known as the SATA cable, is used to transfer data between host adapters and other mass storage devices such as the hard drive or the optical drive. This cable is used to transfer data and data only.
Here we have the motherboard. It's one of the most essential parts of a computer system. It unifies crucial components of a computer, including north and south bridge. You will need to ensure that the processor, memory, and other parts of the computer are compatible with the motherboard. The RAM. Gently grab the RAM sticks and place them into the RAM slots. Make sure that you hear the RAM slots snap. That will ensure that the RAMs are in place.
Next up is the CPU. Gently grab the CPU and place it in the CPU slot. Be sure to be gentle with it and not put any pressure when placing it on top. Next, lift up the lid and make sure it snaps into place. Next up, place the heatsink with the CPU fan over the CPU. Be sure that the 4 holes align, and once you made sure that this is correct, go ahead and screw in all 4 screws tightly. Once you did this, make sure you connect the CPU fan to the motherboard.
The power supply. Place the power supply into the slot and slide. Make sure you hear a snap. That ensures that it's in place. Once you get the power supply in place, make sure you run the Molex around the motherboard so that the cords are not across the motherboard. Also, be sure to screw the 3 screws that holds the power supply into place.
Once you've done this, connect the fan, Molex cable, and all other cables into the motherboard. Make sure that they are tightly placed and connected, and also be sure that they are not covering the motherboard. Next up is a hard drive. Make sure that you place the hard drive with the arrows going into the slots. Once you've done this, it will snap into place. Be sure to connect the SATA cable and the power cable that go to it. Once the hard drive is set into place, you can finally run all the power cables from the power supply under it to make sure that they are not crossing the motherboard. You can then go ahead and proceed to connecting the power supply cables to the appropriate place in the motherboard. The optical drive. Similar to the hard drive, this piece of equipment slides in directly into the appropriate slot. Be sure to hear a click to make sure that it is appropriately placed. You will also need to connect the SATA cable and the appropriate Molex connector to it. Once you've done these things, go around and take a good look at the motherboard. Make sure that there aren't any cables crossing it, and make sure that all of the cables are inserted correctly. You also need to make sure that the hard drive and the optical drive are placed incorrectly, as improper installation of this will cause problems with your PC.
You can now install the PC face cover. Make sure you hear the snaps to ensure that it is placed on the right way. Finally, you can paste the PC cover on the PC as if you're closing a door. Be sure that you place the PC hooks into the PC slots.